Stop scrolling and listen closely. Because every word of this video was designed to bypass your defenses. If you skip a single minute, you are letting the ghost win again. What I'm about to reveal will strip away the illusions of your own behavior. And finally show you why you have been your own greatest enemy. Most battles happen quietly inside your head before your life. You wake up dreaming of courage but walk wearing fear. A silent hunter studies your habits like footprints in snow. It waits for moments when you promise change to yourself. That promise becomes bait hanging gently from the edge of your comfort zone where excuses grow like weeds in darkness. You call it rest, but it slowly builds a cage. Every bar is made from stories you repeat about limitations. Like saying you are too late, too broken, too ordinary. The ghost smiles because those words sound safer than action. Watch a man at gym who scrolls instead of lifting. He tells himself tomorrow while muscles and confidence quietly fade. The predator feeds on these delays like crumbs of power. Each excuse strengthens the shadow that pretends to protect you. You feel safe while standing still as the world quietly moves forward without asking permission from your frightened heart now. This is how dreams become museums instead of living, breathing rooms filled with what you could have been but weren't. The ghost dusts those shelves every night with gentle laughter. Because stillness is easier to manage than men in motion. It fears your first step more than enemy you imagine. So it paints the future as storm you cannot survive. Meanwhile, your present stays small, warm, and quietly predictable now. This is the invisible anchor dragging courage beneath calm waters. Cut the rope and watch the ghost scramble for freedom. The moment you choose change, your chest fills with cold. It feels like hand pressing you back into yesterday's shape. Your brain whispers safety while your heartbeat begs for something new and dangerous, like stepping onto ice that might break. A student opens a book but checks messages every page. He tells himself he is learning while avoiding the test. This is resistance wearing the mask of comfort and routine. It is ancient, like fire and shadows on cave walls. Your ancestors survived by staying close to what they knew. Your modern life demands you walk into rooms without maps. The void between those instincts becomes a battlefield inside you. A woman plans a business but never calls her client. She says she is preparing while the season quietly passes. Preparation becomes a pillow where ambition falls asleep tonight now. The ghost loves bed because dreams do not fight back. You call patience but it tastes like fear in disguise. The body tightens as if preparing for fall that comes. Never arrives because you never step off the ledge today. This is how potential becomes a rumor you tell yourself. At night when lights are low and honesty is louder. You feel the weight of every path you refuse take. The void is not empty, it is crowded with almosts. Faces of who you could have been watching silently now. They do not judge, they simply wait for your courage. Most people keep them waiting until the lights finally fade. The ghost does not shout, it whispers in friendly voice. It sounds like your own thoughts wearing a softer tone. Tomorrow becomes a blanket you pull over today's responsibilities now. A man tells himself he will apologize after more day. The distance grows while pride and silence share the bed. The ghost translates fear into logic that sounds responsible today. It says wait until you are ready, strong and certain. But readiness is a horizon that moves when you walk. A teenager dreams of art but studies something safer instead. Years later the dream becomes a joke told at parties. The language of the ghost is polite, patient and patient. It never says stop, it says slow down for now. Slowness feels wise while time quietly sharpens its knife nearby. You look back and see years like empty chairs waiting. Each chair holds a version of you that never arrived. The ghost nods kindly as if offering a reasonable deal. Stay comfortable today and we will talk about tomorrow again. Tomorrow becomes a country you never actually visit anymore now. Your passport is courage but it stays locked in drawers. You show others postcards of dreams instead of real memories. They clap for the story while the truth sits quietly. This is how identity becomes a costume you wear daily. Underneath it the real self waits for a cue tonight. The stage lights are fear and the audience is you. The ghost directs the play where nothing ever truly happens. Safety feels warm like a small room with familiar walls. You decorate those walls with stories of why you stay. A worker hates his job but fears the empty road. So he walks the same path every morning like clockwork. The cage becomes invisible because you helped build it yourself. Trauma writes rules about who you are allowed to become. You follow them faithfully thinking they are carved in stone. A child once laughed at your idea and you stopped. Now the adult version calls that memory being realistic today. Realism becomes a shield you raise against possibility every day. The ghost loves the shield because it looks like wisdom. Wisdom without movement is just fear wearing a crown tonight. You see others succeed and tell yourself they are lucky. Luck becomes another story that keeps you seated comfortably now. A man watches videos about fitness while eating his dinner. He feels productive without feeling the burn of effort today. The comfort of the cage is padded with good intentions. Intentions become pillows that soften the sound of regret later. At night the ceiling of success feels low and heavy. You stretch your hands but touch the limits you set. Those limits wear your name like a quiet signature now. The ghost asks gently if you are comfortable enough already. Comfort answers yes while courage clears its throat slowly now. One voice decides the shape of the life you live. Tonight you choose which one gets the microphone in hand. Your brain was not built to make you happy. It was built to keep you breathing through cold nights. Deep inside you lives a storyteller older than language. It remembers teeth in the dark and hunger in wind. Growth to it feels like stepping into tall grass alone. Change sounds like footsteps that do not belong to you. A man considers quitting his job for something uncertain. His stomach tightens like he spotted eyes in bushes. The ghost smiles because the fear feels ancient and wise. Your body reacts before your dreams can even speak up. Sweat on palms becomes proof that danger must be nearby. But the danger is only a future you cannot control. The caveman script runs quietly behind modern glass screens. Every notification becomes a drumbeat warning you to stay. Stillness feels like shelter carved from familiar stone walls. The past becomes a cave you keep returning to nightly. Even when the fire inside you wants to explore stars. The ghost reminds you that stars once meant cold and death. So you trade curiosity for comfort and call it survival. This is how ancient code writes limits on modern lives. The update never came because fear was once a hero. Now it guards a world where lions live inside thoughts. Long ago the men who stayed close to fire survived. The one who chased the horizon became a missing story. Today the horizon is a business idea or a dream. Your heart still pounds like a predator stepped into view. A woman opens her laptop to write the first page. Her chest tightens as if winter just entered the room. The ghost leans in and whispers about bills and failure. It shows her images of embarrassment like shadowed cave walls. Safety becomes a warm blanket woven from familiar routines. Routines turn into walls that slowly shrink your room. You call it being realistic and responsible with your time. But deep inside something wild scratches at the door. Modern cities hide ancient instincts behind polished windows now. You wear confidence like armor over a trembling animal. Every bold move feels like stepping into a storm alone. So you walk circles around the same safe fire pit. The fire keeps you warm but never shows you sunrise. Your world stays small enough for fear to manage easily. The ghost becomes the guard of this comfortable little kingdom. It taxes your courage and pays you with quiet nights. Some call this peace while their potential quietly starves. Your brain loves rewards that arrive faster than consequences. A screen lights up and your focus follows like moth. The ghost offers berries instead of building something that lasts. A man plans to train but watches one more video. The video becomes 5 and the night becomes gone. His future body waits patiently in an empty gym tomorrow. In the wild you ate what you found right now. You never planned feasts for a winter you might miss. That instinct still rules your thumbs and wandering eyes. Notifications become modern berries hanging from digital branches. Each tap gives a taste of comfort without effort or risk. Long projects feel like cathedrals that take too much stone. So you build sandcastles that wash away by morning light. Relief becomes a drug you swallow instead of facing fear. The ghost hands it to you with a gentle smile. It says you deserve a break before you even begin. Breaks turn into habits that build nothing but empty time. Time becomes the currency you spend without checking balance. One day you look back and see a receipt of distractions. The altar of comfort is stacked with your abandoned futures. Your brain celebrates survival even when your life feels small. Breathing becomes proof that everything must be working fine. When you try to change, it sounds like an alarm inside. The system thinks you are breaking something that kept you alive. A man decides to wake early and his body rebels. Muscles feel heavy like chains pulling him back to bed. The ghost calls this signal wisdom instead of resistance. Stagnation becomes a safe harbor painted as common sense. Every habit builds a road your mind prefers to walk. New paths feel like cliffs with no handrails to hold. You stand at the edge while comfort tugs at your coat. Your past self argues that staying is the smarter choice. But your future self waits quietly across the gap. The distance between them is measured in one brave step. Your biology screams when you try to cross that space. It confuses growth with danger and safety with staying small. You feel tired not because you worked but because you fought. The fight is between who you are and who you could. Most people choose the version that feels easier to carry. The ghost wins by convincing you that ease is life. Life waits on the other side of the discomfort you avoid. There is a stranger who wears your face inside. You pass him in thoughts like reflections on dark glass. He lives in rooms you lock and never clean, where anger, shame, and hunger for more are stored. A child learns early which feelings get smiles and silence. So he buries the loud ones under polite behavior. Years later, the man feels a tug he cannot name. The shadow knocks when he reaches for something brighter. A woman applies for a role and forgets to send. The final message, like her hand, was guided away. The stranger smiles because staying hidden keeps him fed. Anything buried alive keeps breathing in the dark. It grows roots through your habits and small daily choices. You call it bad luck or timing when plans collapse. But the resident inside rearranged the furniture quietly. Every step toward light makes the basement door creak open. The ghost does not scream, it trips you gently forward. You fall and blame the ground instead of the hand. This is how the unseen becomes the quiet director of scenes where you always lose at the final moment. The stranger only wants to stay unseen and safe. So he dims the lights when you try to shine. The things that irritate you often carry your reflection. A loud, confident man makes you uncomfortable in rooms. A successful friend makes your chest tighten at dinner. The shadow uses them like mirrors without frames. You see pieces of yourself you tried to forget. So you call them arrogant, lucky, or undeserving instead. A couple argues over small words that hide larger fears. Each voice is defending a wound they refuse to touch. You push people away before they can see inside. Because being seen feels more dangerous than being alone. The ghost whispers that love will expose the fraud. So you test others until they fail the secret exam. A woman gets praised and laughs it off like a joke. Inside, she fears the praise will be taken back soon. Failure feels honest because success feels like a costume. The shadow prefers the story where you remain small. Small is familiar, and familiarity feels like control. You sabotage the bridge before someone else can cross. That way the ending belongs to you, not the world. Hate becomes a shield you raise against recognition. If you judge first, you never have to be judged. The mirror stays cracked so you never see whole face. The shadow carries more than fear and broken parts. It also holds the strength you were told to hide. A boy learns anger is bad and swallows his fire. Years later, he cannot stand up for his own needs. That fire was not evil, it was energy without direction. A girl is told she feels too much and becomes quiet. Her silence later becomes a well of deep imagination. Every trait you bury keeps its original power inside. Aggression can become leadership when given a purpose. Sensitivity can become art when allowed to breathe freely. The ghost is not a monster guarding a cursed door. It is a horse pacing in a small, dark stable. It kicks because it was born to run wide fields. You try to lock it instead of learning how to ride. A man who fears his ambition calls himself humble. His hunger for more becomes bitterness toward those who try. The gold stays buried under labels like good and bad. But energy does not disappear, it only changes shape. It leaks into sarcasm, tension, and quiet resentment at night. When you bring a lantern into that room, you see. The same darkness holds the tools for your brightest work. The key is not to kill the shadow, but train it. The war inside you ends when both sides sit together. You stop treating parts of yourself like enemy prisoners. A man admits he wants power and feels lighter instantly. A woman admits she wants to be seen and steps forward. Naming the impulse removes its grip from the shadows. The ghost loses its mask when you speak its name. Integration is not a battle, it is a conversation. You look at the darker voice and ask what it needs. Often, it wants safety, respect, or a chance to matter. You can give those without burning your own future. Until you bring the hidden into the open light. It will pull strings behind your choices like quiet hands. You will call it destiny or bad luck or timing. But it is simply an unseen part steering the wheel. When you welcome it, the steering becomes your own. The architect of every fall also drew the map. For the climb you keep telling yourself is impossible. Your ruins and your temples share the same foundation. Both are built from the pieces of who you truly are. The marriage of light and dark creates a whole person. Wholeness moves forward while fragments stay trapped in place. There is comfort in knowing exactly how you will lose. Failure gives you a role that fits like an old coat. You become the misunderstood hero in your own story. The one who tried but was never truly given chance. Success would force you to learn a new name inside. A stranger would look back at you from the mirror. The ghost prefers faces it already recognizes and controls. A man stays in a job he complains about daily. Because the pain is mapped and the exits are known. Happiness feels like a room with no furniture or walls. You do not know where to sit or how to stand. So you return to the familiar chair of disappointment again. Identity becomes heavier than joy and harder to move. You would rather carry a known burden than a new. The cage is decorated with memories and predictable routines. You hang your excuses like pictures on every wall. They make the space feel personal and safe to inhabit. The ghost walks these halls like a landlord collecting comfort. It knows every corner where your courage tends to hide. Freedom feels like open sky, and open sky feels dangerous. So you choose the ceiling because it feels like protection. The hell you know becomes home you refuse to leave. Inside you lives a quiet measure of what you deserve. When life rises above it, alarms begin to ring. A woman gets praised and suddenly forgets to reply. A man receives love and starts looking for a fight. The ghost believes happiness must be earned through old pain. So it lowers the temperature back to familiar cold ground. You miss deadlines like stepping on brakes at green lights. You return to habits that once kept you small and safe. Not because you want the past, but because it fits. Success feels like wearing clothes that belong to someone else. You keep adjusting them, hoping no one will notice. The shadow whispers that you are borrowing a better life. Imposter stories become chains you wrap around your progress. You sabotage the moment before it becomes a memory. The thermostat clicks, and comfort returns in shape of regret. Regret feels honest because it matches the story you know. You tell yourself this level is where you truly belong. Belonging becomes more important than becoming something greater. So you shrink back into the outline of your history. The ghost relaxes when your world returns to its size. Happiness above your ceiling feels like a dangerous altitude. Hope can feel like a door that slams on fingers. If you have been hurt every time you reached forward, your mind learns to keep its hands in pockets instead. A boy dreams of being seen and gets laughed at. Years later, he laughs at his own dreams first. The ghost calls this humor, but it is quiet armor. Aspiration becomes a word that tastes like old wounds. So you protect yourself by never stepping into light. You tell others you are fine where you are. Fine becomes a blanket you pull over restless nights. A woman avoids applying because rejection feels like history. She chooses the certainty of no instead of maybe. Maybe carries both wings and knives inside the same word. The brain prefers the knife, it already knows the shape. You bury your dreams like seeds in frozen ground, telling yourself it is for their own protection now. But seeds in darkness do not grow, they disappear quietly. The cage becomes a garden where nothing new can rise. You walk its paths pretending they lead somewhere else. The ghost calls this peace, and you call it being strong. Strength becomes the ability to endure instead of to change. The bars of your cage are shaped like your own hands. You grip them so tightly they feel like part of you. Letting go feels like falling, even when ground is near. To grow, you must say goodbye to the smaller self. The one who stayed quiet to stay safe and accepted. That goodbye feels like grief because it is a death. A man admits he wants more and feels guilty instantly. A woman steps forward and feels she betrayed her past. The ghost uses loyalty to the old self as chains. It tells you change means abandoning who you used to be. But growth is not betrayal, it is continuation with courage. You mourn the comfort of being unseen and unchallenged. In that mourning space, a stronger identity begins breathing. The question shifts from why you keep falling down to who you must become to stay standing in light. Success demands a new shape of your voice and walk. It asks for space where excuses used to live quietly. You feel the ceiling crack when you raise your head. The sound is fear breaking into possibility for first time. Beyond the glass is not heaven, but open unfinished ground. You step not as hero, but as someone finally honest. Honest about wanting a life that feels bigger than safety. The ghost no longer needs claws or teeth to win. It only needs your attention and a glowing screen. Fear has been replaced with comfort wrapped in pixels. A man wakes and checks his phone before his breath. The world enters his mind before his own thoughts do. Notifications drip like medicine into a restless nervous system. Each buzz promises something important but delivers something small. Small enough to keep you wanting another hit soon. The survival brain smiles because the hunger feels satisfied. Without hunting, building, or risking anything at all. A woman scrolls through lives she is not living. She feels connected while sitting alone in a quiet room. The ghost trades danger for distraction and wins more battles. You are not being chased, you are being gently rocked. Rocked into stillness by endless streams of moving pictures. The new cave is bright and fits inside your palm. The fire glows blue instead of warm and wild. You stare at it while your own fire dims inside. Comfort becomes a soft fog that blurs the passing hours. Hours turn into days that feel like one long moment. The ghost counts those moments like trophies on a shelf. Each one is a dream that never stood up to walk. You watch someone else climb and feel like you moved. A man saves videos about discipline instead of practicing it. A woman follows artists and never touches her own brush. The ghost offers the taste of growth without the work. You collect advice like souvenirs from places you never visit. Your feed becomes a museum of the person you admire. But the doors never open to let you step inside. Online, you build a version of yourself that feels brave. Offline, you return to the quieter, smaller version at night. The illusion feels good because it looks like effort. Preparation becomes a ritual that replaces actual creation. Notes fill notebooks while actions never leave the page. You tell yourself you are learning while avoiding the test. The test is simply showing up where you might fail. The ghost claps for your research and your saved links. It knows progress that never risks is perfectly safe. Your soul craves substance but is fed highlights instead. Highlights flash like fireworks that leave no warmth behind. You chase that flash and forget to light your own fire. The future becomes a slideshow of plans without footsteps. You become an audience to the life you meant to live. Silence is where uncomfortable questions begin to speak. So you drown them with music videos and endless news. The ghost fears the moment you sit with nothing. Because nothing often turns into truth if you wait. A man sits alone and feels a hollow space open. He reaches for his phone like a life raft in dark. The noise closes the gap before the feeling can grow. That feeling was a message about a life out of alignment. But messages are easier to mute than to answer. Deep work needs quiet like seeds need undisturbed soil. You give it static instead and wonder why nothing grows. Every beat becomes a guard at the gate of your mind. It checks every thought before it can become a plan. Plans die in the waiting room of constant interruption. Your focus becomes a city with too many open doors. Anyone can walk in and take a piece of your time. Time is the only currency you can never earn back. You spend it on sounds that leave no memory behind. The ghost builds a fortress out of endless background noise. Inside it, your potential walks in circles looking for exit. Somewhere, code is learning what makes you hesitate and click. It studies your fears like a map of secret pathways. A man scrolls past an ad that knows his weakness. He stops without knowing why his thumb slowed down. Desire is being guided by invisible hands behind glass. You kneel at an altar made of trending videos and feeds. The ghost wears the face of something you already want. It dangles it just far enough to keep you reaching. Willpower becomes a muscle that never gets a chance to lift. Because every impulse is caught before it becomes a choice. The war for your future happens in a blink of time. Between the urge to escape and the courage to stay. Your phone becomes a gate that opens away from your life. You walk through it dozens of times every single day. Each return feels heavier than the last one before. The algorithm learns your patterns better than you know them. It predicts your next move like a seasoned chess player. The ghost smiles because prediction is another form of control. To reclaim yourself, you must pause where the scroll begins. That pause is a crack where your real will can breathe. Through it, you step back into a world that needs your hands. You cannot destroy the voice that lives inside you. Fighting it only feeds it more attention and fire. The ghost grows stronger when you argue with every thought. So you learn to watch it like weather behind glass. A man hears doubt and does not answer it today. He lets it pass like a cloud over quiet hills. Recognition becomes the first key in the locked door. You stop being the machine and become the observer. The voice says stop and you say nothing at all. Silence becomes a mirror where the ghost loses shape. You notice the pattern instead of obeying the command. A woman feels fear and still takes one small step. That step feels like rebellion against an invisible ruler. The ghost hates being seen more than being challenged. Because once seen, it cannot pretend to be you. Awareness becomes a light that follows you everywhere. Every shadow shrinks when you stop running from it. You sit with discomfort like a guest you do not fight. The prison wall cracks when you realize you hold the key. You are no longer the cog turning someone else's design. You become the hand that reaches for the switch. The ritual is simple and quiet and deeply powerful. Notice what moves you before you decide to move. The ghost is terrified of steps too small to notice. Grand promises give it something big to tear apart. But a tiny habit slips past its ancient alarm. A man writes one sentence before checking his phone. That sentence becomes two and then a quiet page. A woman walks 5 minutes when she promised herself hour. 5 minutes becomes a door that stays slightly open. Consistency becomes a whisper that grows into a voice. The survival brain ignores what feels boring and safe. So you hide your growth inside simple daily actions. No speeches, no vows, no dramatic turning points tonight. Just shoes by the door and a glass of water. The ghost looks away because nothing important seems happening. But something is being built under the surface quietly. Brick by brick where fear cannot see the pattern. You do not conquer resistance, you outlast it slowly. Routine becomes a river that carries you without force. Motivation becomes unnecessary when movement becomes normal. The body learns before the mind can complain again. Days stack like stones into something solid and real. The demon of delay starves when fed with small wins. You become unstoppable by becoming almost invisible first. The amateur waits for a feeling that never arrives. The professional moves first and lets feelings catch up. A painter paints even when the canvas feels cold. A runner runs even when the morning feels heavy. The ghost demands comfort before it allows any action. You reverse the order and watch its power fade. You sit at the desk like it is a duty. Not a place where you go only when inspired. A man types with tired hands and finds a rhythm. That rhythm becomes a door where ideas walk through. You stop negotiating with every passing emotion today. Emotions become weather you dress for, not commands. Discipline becomes a quiet form of self-respect. You treat your future like someone you promised to meet. You show up even when you do not feel like it. The ghost screams for rest and distraction and delay. You give it a chair in the corner and continue. This is not cruelty, it is leadership over yourself. The body follows the hand that keeps moving forward. The mind follows the body that refuses to stop. Work becomes a place where fear slowly loses its job. You become the person who acts instead of reacts. One day you stop running from the darker voice. You turn around and see what it was guarding. Behind fear is energy that has been waiting patiently. The same tension becomes fuel when you give it direction. A man uses his anger to protect something meaningful. A woman uses her doubt to sharpen her preparation. The ghost removes its mask when you invite it forward. Shadow and light sit at the same table now. You stop wasting strength on holding yourself back. That strength becomes a wind behind your steps instead. The war ends when both sides realize they share ground. You are not divided, you are unfinished and becoming. The machine no longer runs without a driver inside. You take the seat and feel the engine respond. Fear becomes a signal instead of a stop sign. Resistance becomes a weight that builds your inner muscle. The path clears not because it is easy now, but because you walk it without asking permission anymore. Your past and future meet in the same moment. The moment you decide to move even while trembling. The ghost becomes a guide instead of a jailer. You step forward carrying both darkness and direction. For the first time, the road feels like your own.